25 years ago, at this very moment, Joanne, you were getting ready to sit at the anchor desk for the first time to go on the air. What are your thoughts? What do you remember from the very first night on March 1st?
I remember not wanting to screw it up.
Because all eyes were on you. You were the only one. You were the face of Fox 35.
Yeah, you know what? That was the pinnacle of my broadcast career, you know. And Bill's often said something to the effect of it was lightning in a bottle, and it was. It was the best group of people cumulatively that I've ever worked with.
Lewis said almost the exact same thing. He should be joining us later this evening. And he told me, and I hadn't discussed this with Bill at all, but he told me that for your first newscast, you guys were really sitting on a hot story that had to do with a school teacher and a student, I believe. Do you remember that, Bill?
Oh yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I think it was at least a teacher, if not a principal. It
Right.
was a big deal, and yeah, we
Didn't Donald have that story? Was that his story?
yeah, well, I think it was, but wasn't the source. That came to us, well, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks before the launch.
And you had to
So
sit on that story for a while, didn't you?
We were sitting on it and just hoping that the word never got out. And I think the day that it hit the air, there were only 3 of us that actually knew what the story was. And it had been, I think we'd cleared it through the legal department at Meredith, just making sure everything was good. They said it was fine. And so, yeah, there weren't very many that, Lewis referred to it as secret squirrel when it came to the
That's right.
editorial meetings.
Yeah.
And so nobody really knew what that meant except a couple of us. And,
So
it was a big one. It was a big story.
Oh,
Nobody
gosh,
else had.
I bet the other stations tuned in that night saying, all right, let's see what's going on with this other station. And then you hit them with this story. They must have scrambled, right?
Oh, you got to know. I mean, yeah. I think that was probably one of the things, and you and I talked about this when you interviewed me earlier, but yeah, and Joe, I think you probably remember this well too. Hal Bodeker just did not like what we were doing a bit, and wasn't afraid to comment in his column about all this weird stuff that we were doing and everything, which just totally energized all of us. I think it was just like great, because Hal was totally out of the demo that we were shooting for.
Yeah.
And as the face of Fox 35, Joanne, that probably means he didn't like you either, did he?
No, I don't recall ever getting a kind word out of him.
Oh, speaking of kind word, I just saw Steve Oldfield talk about how the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once is not one of his favorites and it's nominated for Best Picture. We're going to let him in now, and Mike Velocity as well. You should be seeing them pop up here in just a moment. Then I had a question for Denise. Mikey, there's Mikey. How you doing?
Mike,
Look at him. He hasn't changed a bit.
He hasn't. Oh my
A
God,
little bit.
not much. No,
Let's
you're
see.
looking good, man.
I'm looking for
Thank you.
Steve
Good to
Oldfield.
see you guys.
We're just reminiscing about the old days. We were talking about the first newscast. And actually,
Remember the old days.
yes. 25 years ago this evening, that was episode number 1. I've been kind of chatting with everybody, texting or interviews over the past few weeks. But Denise, I haven't had a chance to really talk to you or kind of jog my memory as to ever seeing you at the station at the same times I was there. Where would I have seen you around that time 25 years ago?
Well, it was a very exciting time for some very inexperienced new journalists. So I was, I'd come down from Arkansas, moving back home, and I got a job at TV 20. So wonderful 6 months, but fortunately I got on with Fox, and, I had worked in a medium market in Arkansas as a producer, a reporter, and I wanted to be a photographer. And so it was an amazing opportunity for some of us over in the Ocala Bureau, and in Gainesville to get on with the major market news with not a lot of experience. So I started over in Gainesville, Ocala as a photographer. And actually I was reminiscing with somebody the other day, one of the very first reports on the big fires of
Yes.
98 was actually in Stark, which is right outside of Gainesville.
And that's something that Bill mentioned in his interview with me, and so did Lewis. And here's Lewis joining us now. Good evening, Lewis. How are you?
Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey, Lewis.
Wow.
By the way, if my computer crashes, I'll be
It's all
happy
right.
to rejoin. But you know how this thing's been behaving.
That's all right. Rejoin at any time. So right now we have our very first news anchor here, our first producer, and it looks like we're about to be joined by our first sports anchor. Scott Burge is joining us. Good evening, Scott. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Listen to that voice. His voice hasn't changed a bit either. As soon as I heard it in my earpiece, I'm like, that's Scott. How are you doing?
Hey,
Doing great. Great to see everybody.
Oh, I love how
Good to
everybody's
see you,
popping up
Scott.
here.
Scotty B.
In a while.
I'm waiting for Steve Ofield. He's right there, about to jump right in. Well, for those that don't know, oh, I do hear you. Oh, apparently, hello, caller. Go ahead, turn your radio down. We have a call coming in. I hear you, but I don't see you right now, Steve.
Yeah, I'm actually driving. I did a shoot tonight for a story, and I'm going to be in my office in about 12 minutes.
All right, make sure you get that story ready for 10 p.m. We're going on the air soon now. Come on. So that's Steve Ofield joining us there, and he'll be listening in to us. But yeah, you can join in and get your video up whenever you get back to the office, and you can tell us about your shoot today if you like as well. I haven't had a chance, Scott, to see you. We had a little reunion like 10 years ago, but I know you're not local. Tell us about, Scott, if you recall, what were some of the first big stories that you covered that first week of 1998, which was 25 years ago this evening? The Magic, I imagine, was a big deal back then.
It was.
We still had
can tell you
Shaquille.
that there's no chance I have of remembering what I covered the first week, but I can tell you, since we were talking to Steve Oldfield, what my greatest story was. Steve walked up to me and he was covering an entertainment story for Disney. And he handed me this flyer and he said, "Hey, would this be interesting to you?" They were having the greatest sports athletes in all sports of all time at Disney on the same day. So there was Pele and George Brett,
Oh,
and Chris
wow.
Evert and Joe Namath and Gordie Howe.
Oh, wow.
So we went to go interview Joe Namath. And there was a New York City crew, their morning show was there, and they didn't know Namath was going to be there. And so they begged Joe Namath to come go live on their morning show program.
Oof.
And the person said, "Well, no, Scott's got an interview with Joe Namath." And Joe Namath looked at me and he goes, "I'll be back." I said, "Okay, well, I doubt I'll be back, but I'll, go ahead." So he left, and I'm sitting there, and Gordie Howe's agent comes up to me and says, "Hey, Gordie Howe has a new book out. Would you be interested in interviewing Gordie Howe while waiting for Mr. Namath?" I sure would.
Oh, wow.
And so I interviewed Gordie Howe, and about 10 minutes into my interview, up walks Joe Namath. And he looks at me, and I kind of have this panicked look on my face, and he says, "Take your time."
Oh, really? I thought you were going to have to bump Gordie Howe so you could get to Namath, but he actually let you wait.
I interviewed Gordie Howe, and then I interviewed Joe Namath, and that was when I had added a sports show a couple years in, and so we had a sports show every Sunday night, and I ran the Joe Namath and the Gordie Howe for weeks.
Holy smokes. We got a couple of people that are about to pop in. I'd like to announce that I believe, I don't want to say it until they actually pop up, but we have two more people that are joining us right now. And I see, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is a 2-hour interview, but I've been asked by my producer, Lance Grendel, to keep it to 1 minute and 20 seconds.
If we can shave 10 seconds off because there's some really bad weather today.
Yes. We're going to give some extra time to weather. And I was about to give extra time to weather because I think Janice is about to call in right now too. Oh, Janice might be audio only here. We're about to find out.
No, here I am.
Oh, there she is. Janice
Hi.
Jones reporting from the tennis courts. Hello.
I am.
Perhaps Janice will be
I'm
doing
picking this game for you guys.
very good. She's going to do some sports reporting for us this evening. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Good. It's funny. We've got this. It used to be a 9 box. Now it's up to 10 different boxes. We're all here except for Beth Sherman, whose shot is up right now because she's doing her hair right off camera. Maybe she will join us in a minute. But all right, Janice, while we got you here, give us the weather report. What's the humidity like this evening? What's the temperature?
It is probably in the low 70s now. It's pretty good. And yesterday we had a high close to 90. It's ridiculous here.
Yeah. So much for
And Scotty B and I were chatting just a little while ago. It's snowing at his house, and I was sweating and getting a sunburn.
Well, I now have 100% of the people who were on the original Fox 35 billboard up on the show. We showed that during Lewis's interview last week. You can change your tomorrow, of course. And I'm sure if you wanted to get rid of them on eBay, you could probably sell one of those Fox 35 Kleenex boxes for a pretty penny. I'm sure 1 or 2 of you still have one.
I've got them.
Yeah,
I've got one.
How can you not? It's got your face on
I
it.
just have pictures.
Yes, just have pictures. So, okay, I'll just, as people are popping in, I want to, Lance was the last one to pop in. Tell us where you're broadcasting from this evening, Lance.
Well, I live in Houston now, but I'm in Southern California at the moment.
Very good. And Janice, you told us
I'm
where
going
you
to
reported.
scoot, and I'm going to hope my husband can join you guys.
Oh, very good. He should at the very least be
Yeah.
holding your
That's the whole
camera.
kind of thing.
All right,
You
that's
look
good.
fabulous.
I love seeing you guys.
Good to see you too. I was thinking maybe your husband be holding the camera at the very least, but. All right, we'll see if we can get him to join in. All right, so we still have Steve on audio, and then okay, so and Mikey, tell us where you're broadcasting from this evening. You're back here in Florida now.
I'm back in Florida in Apopka, so right outside Orlando, so I can drive past Fox 35 anytime I want.
Very good. Yep, that should be popping by there soon. Well, I haven't had a chance to interview an editor yet, but I wanted to see real quick, Mikey, what do you
You are an
recall?
editor.
Well, yeah, nobody wants to hear what I have to say, though. They only want to have me ask questions. What do you recall, Mikey, when it came to that first, let's say the first week, just before you went on the air? You were still dealing with, you had the laptop editors and you were dealing with DVC equipment and getting the AirPlay system all working. Do you recall what it was like that last week for you before you went on the air?
It was a little crazy. And it's funny because Bill mentioned it in his interview that when they went on air, they forgot to hire editors. And so
No respect for editors.
they looked
None.
at the interns and said, they looked at me and said, "You know how to use that machine, right?" And I'm like, well, yeah. And like, "You want to be an editor?" I'm like, "Sure." And so I became an editor.
Wow. No,
That's
no
how it works.
no resume, no job interview, no sitting in Bill's office. It was just like, hey, what about that guy?
You can push the buttons. Can you do it? So, but the run-throughs were crazy because we had the computer playback system.
Mhm.
Then when the computers would crash, you would have to
The tapes.
grab the tapes and play them live. But the problem is, in the early days, we trusted the computers. And then
Yeah.
when the computers would crash, the tapes were not in alphabetical order. They were not queued up to the head of the tape. They were queued up after the end of the tape. So when the computer would crash, you would throw the tape in, rewind it to try to find the beginning of the story of the package, and then hit play and try to play it at the right time.
Pray that somebody put a countdown
Sometimes
on
that
it.
would work, sometimes that would not work.
Yeah.
And so some newscasts I was the hero and sometimes I was the villain. It just
Yeah.
depended on the
Yeah.
day.
Not usually any love for the editors. That's true. So much no love for the editors that they were barely even hired right at the beginning. I just clicked on another button. Tom Colato should be joining us here. Might be audio only. Tom, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Oh, we don't see you right now, but we hear you. Our general manager, Tom, is joining us. Say hello, everybody.
Hey, Tom.
Everybody.
Hi, Tom.
Huh?
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, currently right now we can't see you. We can only hear you. Is that correct?
La, 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 la.
Yes, we do hear you. We just don't have your picture come up yet. Oh, wait, there it is. Can you guys see him?
He's frozen.
There he is.
He's nervous. He's on camera. He's on TV. So I've had, and the perfect timing here as well. Sue is joining us. Say hello to Sue there. She just popped up on the screen. We just got Tom and Sue that have joined. Yes. Well, I've had a chance. Hi, how are you?
Oh my gosh, you look so pretty.
She's got good lighting too.
Wow, Sue! Holy smokes! Lewis.
A minute.
It was Lewis, the guy with the hat on, and who's sitting back there a little bit. I've been going through a lot of photos. Lewis sent me like 100 different photos, and all of you guys are in these photos from over those years ago. A lot of the photos had to do with pictures of what looked like an abandoned building. Well, it was actually the beginnings of a news station. I'll ask Sue, since she just most recently popped on. What are your memories of those weeks leading up to being on the air for the first time? Exactly. That's the same response.
I remember like everybody trying to move in and get all their stuff situated and learning the cars and learning the gear and meeting with Daryl and all that good stuff. So
and Tom, you probably have a similar answer to that. It was very chaotic for you because you kind of had to put this team together with Bill. What were those weeks like for you leading up to March 1st?
Well, it was kind of like I was Judy Garland to Bill's Mickey Rooney. And Bill said, let's put on a show. And, he brought everybody on stage and he got the best talent. And we had the most awesome team who really, let's be honest, nobody knew what we were doing. And yet we managed to pull it together and we put an awesome product on the air.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And making a fashionable late entrance, Beth Sherman has joined the show. Welcome. Say hello to Beth Sherman.
Hi, Sherman.
Hi, everybody. You know,
Hey,
I've
Beth.
gotten.
Beth, is this a no drone zone?
Yeah, it's an absolute no drone zone. Don't fly your drone. We have bigger problems than drones, I'm sure. That's all I'll say.
Oh, Beth, while I think of it, because I forgot last time when I interviewed you, as many times as I've talked to you about it over the years, your time on The Price is Right. Lewis says that you actually arrived to Fox 35 with the vehicle that you won. Is that true on The Price is Right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it sure was. I should have kept that car, but no, I drove it for a few years and then I wanted a Jeep. And that was the dumbest car choice ever because you have to drive to work in a Jeep with the top down. No, that doesn't work because by the time you get to work, it looks like you've been, through a hurricane. And then when you get off work, you don't really want to drive home with the Jeep top off either. So yeah, I should have just kept the car that was paid for. It was not my best financial decision based on what I was paid when I first started.
You kept your hair short back then, so maybe it wasn't so bad on the hair, was it?
Oh, I don't know. It was all bad. But, and then it would always rain. So
Yeah.
that wasn't really, that wasn't a great fit. But
Wait a minute. We paid Beth?
yeah, I know. I'm like Office Space, just down in the basement with my red stapler, just wondering when I'm going to get paid.
Her camera's kind of blurry right now. I can't tell if she's serious or bitter or not. It's hard to tell.
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Oh, my camera's blurry?
No, I'm kidding. So go ahead. I want to hop around and ask a bunch of different questions. Some of you I've already interviewed. Some of you I haven't seen in a very long time. But I wanted to ask Joanne, while we have Joanne here, the very first anchor at Fox 35 News. We had discussed earlier about the Orlando Sentinel and kind of giving everybody a hard time. When was the first time that you realized you were like maybe walking down the street or going somewhere and people recognized you from Fox 35 News, and what were their reactions?
Well, at the time, the Fox 35 really invested in promoting, right? We were a brand new startup. And so, there were the billboards and, the Kleenex boxes. And I think there may have even been buses and, it was just kind of everywhere. And they did a really good job in that. Sorry.
She just made a sale. She just made another sale on a house.
That was my clients, and they are buying a really expensive house, but I've sent them to voicemail.
Oh, geez.
it's like you couldn't really go anywhere. And I kind of used to chuckle because it wasn't necessarily at the very beginning that they were recognizing me from being on air. I think it really was really phenomenal marketing that the station did. And then we started to gain traction. And, you know, it was sweet. Like it was just, and it was fun and it was different. And, you know, that very first promo we did, this is not your parents' newscast, and just the attitude and all of it was so fresh and different that the established media kind of scoffed at it. And I think it really inspired us. We were just a bunch of young, and by young, I mean, I was the oldest, but we were a bunch of young, hungry. We didn't know that we should not succeed. We just didn't know it. Bill brought us together. He hired an amazing group of people. I think that is Bill's absolute God's gift, blessing, skill set. And we came together with a synergy that I have never experienced in any other newsroom. And I think part of that was because we were all new. We all came in from somewhere else for the most part. And we had to rely on one another and trust one another and believe in one another, because people outside of the newsroom when we launched did not believe in us, but we believed in ourselves.
Tom, I know that you had spent a lot of money before going on the air for the first time. What do you recall when it came to a budget for promotion? Like Joanne said, the buses and the billboards. I mean, was that a huge expense?
It was a huge expense, but it was never questioned. We knew we had to get this off the ground. We knew we were competing head to head against Bright House with News 13. And Bill, I don't recall, did we launch within days of each other on the same day?
I think they may have gotten on just before we did. It was very close together, but I do believe they signed on just before we had.
And you also had Bud Hettinger across the street.
Yes, the original 12 o'clock news, channel 18, I believe. Joining us now, Donald Jones has jumped in. Everybody say hello to Donald.
Hey, Donald.
Donald.
Once again, another one that has not changed a bit. We could put him right back on the air today, and people would think they're looking at a video from 25 years ago.
Well, it only took me 30 minutes to get logged into the access point.
There he is.
We were discussing earlier, Donald, about the first big news story that came out on March 1st, and it had to do with a teacher or a principal that was involved with a student. Was that a story that you were involved in? Do you remember?
Yes.
Big story.
And Lewis. Thank you, Lewis.
And Lewis is there. He could jump in on that as well. You recall.
Yeah, it was the secret squirrel. I think I almost got banned from the Fox 35 market.
Now,
no, you did not. You did not. We had all the lawyers. You'll remember we worked this thing. I mean, we worked this so hard and we killed it. And you'll remember you killed it because what happened the next day? Everybody else was chasing it. You remember that.
Now, that's a big deal, having a story that big on your first night. Lance, what kind of runtime do you think you gave him for that first night on that package?
45 seconds.
Steve. Thank you, Steve.
Minute 30.
It's funny because I've been listening to all the interviews and everybody's talking about the time, and I just chuckle because I feel like news has gotten that way now even more than we were at that time, right? It's all about short attention span theater, but I seem to recall, Donald, didn't that package run almost 3 minutes?
Oh.
No, yeah, I don't think it was, but I think you had me on set with Joanne to do the pitch and talk about an intro. And then we, went to the donut and whatever. And then, so I think maybe the whole thing ran. I don't know, dude. No.
There's no way it was 3 minutes. That's not the Lance Grendel.
I just still have nightmares that I was there and I didn't have any clothes on. So.
I find
you did a great job.
When you're in the studio and you're like, 4, 3, 2, shit, I'm naked.
I will say, hearing Lewis's voice makes me want to run out to breaking news. It's like exactly having trauma. Is there a fire? Is Orlando burning down again? I don't know.
Hearing
This is-
Lewis's voice makes me want to drink.
Oh, there we go. This segment brought to you by.
It is bigger than her head.
Did anyone else know the connection? I mean, obviously, there was some very secretive stuff here, but this was so big because of who the student belonged to.
No, I did not say that when I did my interview. We did not say that back in the day, Donald. So I have never identified the student.
No,
And
that's what
or
I'm saying, I'm wondering, does anybody on the call, was that ever in the newsroom? I know in a tight-knit group it was, but who would the father of the student was?
Lance is shaking his head. I think he knew.
well, I know.
Yes, and I know
If
because
anybody would have known, it would have maybe been me later on, and I don't know. I just knew Secret Squirrel.
yeah, that was big. And Lewis, I remember you're like, oh, just go knock on his door, dude. No shit. And you were like, come on, go ask him the question. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get shot.
Oh, that's great.
Hey, I told you to ask the question. I used to tell Beth to go swing around. So yeah, that's what we did.
Just swing by. It'll take 5 minutes to go 37 miles.
Gas was cheap then. It was just right around $1 around that time, right? No big deal. That's fun.
Oh,
Donald said something about having a dream and being naked on the set. I didn't start having dreams about Fox 35 until I stopped working there. I started my next job. Then that's when the dreams would start. I'd be in my edit bay and I didn't have what I needed, or the show was about to start. Did anybody have an example of dreams you started having after you left Fox 35? Go ahead.
I
everybody.
had dreams all the time while I was still working, but same thing. I couldn't find the studio. I finally got to the studio. I'd be in sweatpants, no hair, no makeup. The prompter was down. I forgot my scripts. So it would be cumulative. And I had that dream on a number of occasions. And speaking of being naked, do y'all remember when we used to do No Pants Fridays?
Yeah.
Before we had to get up and walk around. Scotty, you started it with the boxer shorts. And so on Fridays, we'd have our blazers and, blouses on, and then we'd be in shorts on the bottom. Anybody else remember that?
Yeah.
So Scott, you were sitting at the anchor desk. You weren't standing at a wall or something for sports reports.
But
Right,
Joanne works Sunday to Thursday, so how did that work?
I started behind the desk, and I had shorts on every day. And I never put any. I had a golf shirt and golf shorts on every day.
Yeah.
I had my suit and tie hanging up, and 5 minutes before I went on, I put on my suit and tie, and then went on the air. And I snuck in and changed the thermostat so that it was colder. And it took Joanne about a year to figure out why it was so cold in the studio every day. And then I would take my suit off, put it back on the hanger, and then go to start on the next story.
Oh, that's great. That's a great story. As we look at the screen here, go
I
ahead.
do remember this, Art.
Go ahead.
I remember the vibe that we had when we started, because Bill had offered all of us the chance to fulfill our dreams. We had all made a huge jump in market size, and mine was market 125 to market 30. And we were all the same age. None of us had kids. We were all about 30, and we had a blast.
Yeah.
And we all got along right from the start. And that was all due to Bill. And kudos for fulfilling my dream.
So Scott went from market
Everybody
125 to being on the not the cover of the Orlando Sentinel, but he was on there leaning up against the Mustang, I believe. Was that Scott that was on one of those pictures, Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Scott.
Scott posing with the Mustangs.
The day the billboards went up, my wife pulled over to take a picture, and a police officer pulled up behind her and gave her a ticket.
She had the best excuse in the world, though. Really, that didn't fly.
No, she told him. She said, my husband's up on the billboard. And the guy still,
As I look, Sue, go ahead. It looks like you were about to say something. I was going to ask you a question, Sue, but go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Okay. Since we're talking about the Mustangs, probably no one else realizes this. So the Mustangs that Lewis found were actually from Gainesville, Florida, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. From the dealership that my father worked at.
Yeah.
And the car salesman that sold them got fired. As you all know, Lewis can be frugal. And there was quite the upset when they found out how much you guys, the station actually paid for the Mustangs. And I think my father, who sold Fords for 50 years, was actually sent in to try and renegotiate so they weren't losing so much money per Mustang.
And they didn't. We got him that cheap. And yes, you're right. 100% right. The guy did lose his job.
And that was 12 vehicles, correct?
No, I think it was 8 or 9.
Oh, 8 or 9. Okay. It
And
was
we
8, and you
drove
got the
those
9th for
things-
free.
We drug those things like we stole them. Oh yeah, that all makes sense now. We
Bill,
can steal them.
Bill
That's-
said,
Lewis
Bill
did
said
steal.
we had to. We had to show him off.
A lot of you guys that are on camera now, you were part of this promotion that David Martin had mentioned to me and Steve Oldfield had mentioned that was shot on film. I still have yet to have seen any of that footage. Do any of you recall being on a film shoot promoting Fox 35 News?
I do. And I remember coming back from that shoot. We were all driving our Mustangs and we were all in a line and I got stopped by a police officer and I thought I was going to get a ticket. And he said, oh no, I just wanted to know what y'all were doing with the same car. Then let me go.
Wow, 2 stories within 5 minutes about
remember that
getting
very
pulled over by
well.
police.
I will say though that Joanne did a promo about milking cows and
Yes.
that how she was ready to roll up her sleeves and work. And it turns out that she and I met again in Minnesota. I had no idea what she was talking about when we were in Orlando. And then we both ended up in Minnesota. And I was like, oh, this is what she means. I get it now. I can totally see it.
I have this
I got
memory.
good.
Oh, here comes Steve Oldfield. We've got his video up there now. Hello, Steve.
God, no one changed.
I got a good one with that.
Go ahead, Donald.
Lewis, do you remember? So Janice and I were in the Savannah market, right? We were in Savannah, Georgia.
Yep.
And I had a long-term photographer buddy that I worked with at Savannah. He left there and was in Jacksonville at Janice's old station where, he went there. Then he ended up in Orlando. And we were coming down to Orlando to go play for a day at SeaWorld and do something else. And he goes, oh, dude, I got a buddy that's the assistant news director and they're starting a news operation at Fox. Y'all should bring your resume tapes. And we're like, shouldn't we send them and make a connection first or anything? He's like, just do it, man. Just bring your tapes. Just bring your tapes and come by the station. So we're heading home and we're like, should we do this? And we pull down the drive there, pull in the front circle. It's pouring down rain. We knock on the door or push a button and somebody opens it and we're like, is Luis Olivero here? We were told to ask for him. And here comes Luis in a t-shirt and short because y'all were building the newsroom. And we're like, hi, I'm Donald and this is Janice and blah, blah, blah. And you know Mike Cimelli? Yeah, well, we wanted to drop off our tapes. And we're like, okay. So we drive and we're somewhere on I-95 an hour and a half later. Supposedly Luis looks at our tapes or somebody did. It was Luis or Bill.
Bill did too. Yeah.
And we get back to Savannah and Mike Cimelli, we have, this is the days of no cell phone that we had and our message machine had a tape and we push rewind and it's like, dude, what are you doing? They're trying to get a hold of you guys. Are you still in Orlando? Are you still in Orlando? They'd like to talk to you guys. And we're like, what? And we totally thought he was screwing with us. We totally thought it was a total joke. And that we were like, Cimelli, we were going to be so mad at you. And sure enough, we call Luis and they're like, yeah, can we talk? So that was hilarious.
And at the end of the day, did she not end up with a t-shirt?
Yeah. Lewis was showing the T-shirts earlier. Those weren't consolation prizes. Those were actually this signifying that you got the job. Is that correct, Lewis?
Yeah, no. When Bill hired you, you walked away with a T-shirt, didn't you? Remember that, Bill?
Absolutely.
Laugh. Because anybody will walk out of your office, all of a sudden they had a T-shirt. It's like, yep, they're in.
Let me
That's
follow
what
up.
Everybody in the newsroom was watching the people that walked out the door. And if they had the T-shirt in their hand, actually it was a polo shirt, I think. They knew that we just had a new hire, and every single person that we brought in there was just fabulous. Somebody mentioned it earlier, and I can't reiterate it enough. And I think Tom said this because none of us knew that it couldn't be done. And so we just went out and did it. And really you guys did it because, you all were on the street, you made it happen. One thing that Art, you asked Joanne about being recognized in the market. One thing I recall, Joe, was you had that kind of spiky haircut at when you went on, and it became a thing where women would walk into their hairstylist and say, "I want the Joanne Bauer haircut."
Wow.
And so if you want recognition, bingo.
The reception desk asked me for my hairdresser's name and number, and they taped it to the phone on the front desk because they got so many phone calls.
Wow. I've never heard that story before. Wow.
That is awesome.
Referring back to the T-shirts real quickly, Mikey, I don't remember the editors ever getting T-shirts. Do you recall?
It was. Bill's right. It was the polo shirt.
Yeah, I got a couple T-shirts. Yeah.
I did. A year later, we did get the fox with the palm tree logo polo shirts. I do recall getting those, but getting the
I got the polo and I got the rain jacket too. I don't know why I didn't go out in the field.
Yeah, it's good. You don't
weren't paid enough.
It
was part of your payment.
You don't ever want to tell them the first.
Exactly, Joanne.
You don't want to let them know you shoot. The first great advice I got from one of the people here, well, she's not here now, was from Janice. She looked when we were talking about, I was an editor, but I also shot, and she said to me, like, don't ever let them know you can shoot. Because if you do, they'll send you out there. And then there were those times when it was time to shoot teases or whatever, and I would go out and shoot teases, and the space shuttle had just gone off. So I said, "Oh, Janice, the shuttle's going off." So I ran out there with a camera, and she did one of her coming up later at 10. We'll talk to you about, and the shuttle's like over her shoulder. But then that was at the time she told me that, and she was like, "Yeah, don't ever let them know you can shoot."
But can I break in and say that I did edit mostly, but I could shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And the one time I was asked to shoot was with Sue Turner.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Do you remember, Sue? Tell us a story about that, Sue.
Where did we go?
The Bahamas.
What?
Yes.
Paradise Island.
Yep. Stephanie Strong sent us to the Bahamas.
What was the story there?
Why didn't I get to go to the Bahamas?
Was it the Atlantis opening?
And I also went to the
It
Bahamas.
was the Atlantis opening. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Michael Jackson scene live from our balcony.
Bill sent us.
That's right. We saw Michael Jackson.
We met like Jack Hanna. Like it was amazing.
We interviewed Donald Trump, I think.
I don't remember
Before
Donald
he was Donald Trump.
Trump.
Yes, we did. Right.
A lot of it's a blur, but yeah. It was a crazy trip.
How long of a trip was that, Mikey? We don't usually go a couple of days with an editor missing.
But it was before your time, so it was like, whatever. But Steve and David were on assignment, so they're like, "Sue, you can go," and they're like, "We don't have any photographers. Who can we send?" They put it to me, I'm like, "Sure, I'll go."
So to be clear, they pointed to you just before the show launched, and they were like, "Hey, you can edit, right?" So then you started editing, and now it's like, "Hey, you can shoot video, right? Okay, you're going to the Bahamas."
I don't remember when it was, but it was early on, right? Like it was.
Yeah, I remember you guys going to that. Yeah.
And we did a live shot and we did the whole thing. Like we were professional about it. Like we did our job.
It worked.
Joanne and I went to the Bahamas too for Gloria Estefan to kick off the world tour.
Yeah, but ours was better.
Okay, well, sure.
Janice and I went to the Bahamas. Bill, you sent us, and I shot both of our stuff. She did the hurricane conference, and I went shark diving. Remember that?
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a fun
we
job.
did a whole like 3 or 4 part series because there were the shark attacks in New Smyrna. And you said, let's do the shark swimming with shark stories and talked with them in the Bahamas about sharks.
Jeez.
By the way, the poor WOGX guys, they sat there and they brought that whole little station up to stuffed, to compete with Channel 20, and they didn't get to go anywhere.
Exactly. Nobody sent us to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Working.
What do you recall, Denise? What were some of the more exotic locations you were sent to?
See Stark,
Haynes Prairie.
Williston. But I want to say this about the laptop editors. 20 years of nonlinear editing, and I still feel the need to hit those buttons. I just want to hit those buttons on that laptop.
Yeah. Click, mark in, click, mark out, fast forward.
Mark in, mark out.
Yeah.
And one more story about the Mustangs. I worked with Ann a lot in Ocala, and one time she had a little problem with her camera, and she took it to engineering and put a note on it. And Bill, you'll probably remember this story. She put a note on it and said, I think there's something wrong with my camera, because she was at a story. I wasn't actually with her at the time. And she got out to wait on an interview, and she set her camera down behind the Mustang. And then the interview didn't happen. They didn't show up. So she got in to leave and reversed over the camera.
Oh, I remember that.
Took the camera literally in chunks, pieces, and put it on the engineer's desk because we were working night side, and put a note on it. I think there's something wrong with my camera. So that was, one more Mustang story, and then I'll let you go.
Please. I love the stories.
Ann and I, again, working together, we ran out of gas. And I was of the opinion, you don't tell anybody if there's a problem unless you absolutely have to. And Ann was like, let's call Lewis. I'm like, don't call Lewis. Oh. So we catch a ride, get gas in a gas can, bring it back to the Mustang. Well, those Mustangs, when you put gas in a car and it's got the little flap that closes?
Yeah.
So this is what I learned, that gasoline actually melts plastic, because we took a pen and stuck it in the little thing to get the flap open so that we could pour the gas in, and the pen melted to my hand.
Oh, jeez.
So we got enough gas in the Mustang to get it running and get it to a gas station, so we didn't have to tell anybody that we ran out of gas.
Jeez.
Well, and then there's one other story. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Go ahead, Lewis.
Because I know my video just crapped out. I'm gonna have to relog back in. But there was one other reporter in Ocala, Gainesville, that had a little situation, and the car was involved in an accident. You all remember that?
Yes.
Yes.
We have the photos, but we chose not to use them.
No. Do not use the photos.
No.
But yeah, no, the car was completely destroyed. The reporter was fine. The equipment was fine, but everything was good. Not going to name her because she's not on the call, but she knows who she is.
If she joins us later.
Recorded, by the way?
Yes, I am recording this. By the way, this is not live. This is all being recorded. I'll probably piece it together for one of the Friday episodes that I do every Friday.
Hey, Art.
Yes.
I've got to run. I just want to say it was really good seeing everybody. I've tried to say, whenever I'm around, I always try and pop in and say hi to everybody here. But
yes, I just
I've got to head out.
Yeah, Lance, we've got
I'm sorry I missed you.
a lot of great fond memories, and Steve told a lot about the times you were at Disney or Islands of Adventure, and they've got some lot of great stories, but maybe we'll try and connect again another time. You're over in California now, you said, correct?
Well, today I live in Houston now.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a crazy couple of weeks for work. That's why Joanne said I tried to meet up with her last week because I was in Phoenix. And I saw Laura Stewart when I was in Orlando this past weekend when I was doing the Disney run. So we actually were in the same corral, and we knew we were looking for each other. We actually ended up about 6 people away. We were like, oh, hey, there you are. So, But yeah, it was great seeing everybody.
Well-
Look, you know, you guys. I told Art, I sent him a message, but I didn't know if I was going to come or not. Super proud, not just of what we did back then, but of what everybody has done since then. I look at this group of people here, and you know, there's a couple people still doing TV, but everybody has gone on to do spectacular things with your careers, and you know, in TV or not. And I would just say I am proud to know each and every one of you, and it's been a pleasure. But y'all have a great evening. We'll have to do this again soon. Take care.
Lance.
Thank you very much, Lance. Well said. Very well
I'm
said.
gonna sign off as well. I've got to go take care of some sort of grown up kids. that
Sure.
still need- Sort of grown up. But it was wonderful seeing everybody, and you know, like I started with at the beginning, Fox was an opportunity for some of us that were in small markets
Yes.
to really jump up. And you know, Bill gave us an opportunity to play with the big boys, and I left Fox and went to WKMG, and it was an exciting, super exciting time in my life. So I appreciate the opportunity. And it was, like you guys said, it was fun, and we didn't know we couldn't do it. And I had never set up a live truck prior to Fox. And they were like, oh, you can do it. And, you know, so I learned how to set up live trucks and do live shots, and it was a lot of fun. And it was, you know, it's part of what, you know, really made my early career what it was. So I appreciate it greatly, and I love you guys, and I will see you later.
Thank you for sharing stories with us. And if you get any more Mustang
Thanks,
stories, you can join the call again. Thank you. I was thinking about something Donald had said earlier about dropping his tape off. What was the plan, Donald, if the Donald got hired and the Janice did not? What was going to be the plan there?
Oh, dude, she was always driving the bus, man.
All right, let's flip it then. What if Janice had been
Oh,
hired and not Donald?
oh,
What would you be doing?
Our effort was in hopes of convincing a station to hire us both, because we in Savannah were at separate stations. And so we interned together at Channel 12 in Jacksonville, then went our separate ways. And I was in Savannah for a couple of years when she got her meteorology degree and everything finished and got her first weather gig, but it was at the competing station. So it was fine. It worked. We kept it pretty quiet. People didn't even know. And then, so we started searching, and this worked out. I think we would have just kept maybe searching that we could find so that we could be in the same station. And then we were fortunate that after Fox, NBC Raleigh hired both of us there as well. And so we were there. I stayed 10 years. Janice stopped before that. But so that was good. So thank you, Bill. Thank you so much for keeping the Joneses in there.
Keeping the Joneses together. It was not a package deal. Bill and I had talked about this before. It was not a package deal, but it just seemed to work out that way for you.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was not a package deal. They wanted Janice, but not you.
No.
Yes, secretly, Janice
Video
put
come
that.
back up? Art?
No, we hear you, but we just don't see you.
All right,
Yes.
let me relog back in, and,
Janice.
because I want to tell the story of that whole tornado thing that we caught on
Please.
video and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Donald, you remember that we sent Janice over to the National Weather Service. Let me
Try and sign on again and do that. Yes.
Yeah, let me do that. I'll be right back.
Wouldn't that have been a great secret if Janice had secretly put that in her contract? You have to hire my husband, or it's no deal. That would have been shocking.
I want to know about, I can't remember how Steve Oldfield, hey buddy, looking good. I don't remember, like, how did you come about, Steve? Because I can't remember how you got to Fox 35.
I'll be brutally honest. I was at the Fox O&O in Salt Lake City with the general manager who looked like Joey Buttafuoco. Do you remember Joey Buttafuoco? Old game. He was the exact opposite of Tom Collado. He was the biggest royal asshole I'd ever worked with in my life. And we parted ways. He didn't get me. I didn't get him. So I was kind of on the beach looking for jobs. And I went into I had a few more weeks left. And I went into their break room, this breakdown of all the Fox stations that were hiring. And I think I saw something in electronic media maybe about it, or broadcasting, one of those things. And I called all my Hollywood like people who invited me to those trips. And I said, if I move to Orlando, are you still going to invite me? They said, yeah, we'd love it. It's a much better market. It's a huge entertainment market. So I think I just cold called Bill and said, hey, have you thought about an entertainment reporter? He was like, oh, that's interesting. And come down here, and that's kind of how it all started. But I was like in desperate need of like a job, and it all kind of worked out.
Wow.
Steve told me some good stories about. Go ahead.
Steve Beatty's up your luck.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very fortunate.
Steve told me during his interview about some of the stories that he got to do for Fox 35, where he would go off to the towns before the Broadway shows came to Orlando. The example I remembered was Beauty and the Beast, because I got to do some editing on that. Mikey, do you recall any of these special half-hour shows you got to work on with Steve?
Oh, I don't remember being that one, but I remember a bunch of them because we did. It was a whole thing we did. Then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Front Row and Clicks were the two specials.
Right. We did a handful of them. I just like that because that was where I could be more creative because I had more time.
Mm-hmm.
With the news, it was like how fast can you get it done? With the Steve stuff, it was like you can put it dissolve and it would be amazing. What the dissolve? It's like so, and we did like boxes and things, and it was fun.
Were you using that Avid that was all the way at the end of the hallway?
Yes.
Yes.
Avid it was already like 10 years old, but cost the station like $100,000.
Yeah, I was going to ask Tom that if you happen to remember. Bill sent me a list of like what the price things cost. You happen to remember what that Avid cost?
It was terribly old. It was the best quality was still not broadcast quality, but that was not this was before HD, so
right.
it was like terrible.
Yes,
but
you got to dissolve. You got to dissolve out of it. So that was exciting.
We could dissolve like boxes. It was fun.
Would you happen to recall, Tom, some of the big ticket items you purchased, such as the Avid, which I believe what I just call Avid 1.0?
I fear that we stole everything. Did
Yeah,
we
I
steal
tried-
that equipment too, Tom?
I tried to put all of those dollar signs out of my head. It was just like, if we need it, let's get it. Let's not worry about how much it is. Bill said we need it. We got it.
That was another question I wanted to ask you, Tom. Was there ever a time where Bill came to you and it was like, look, we've got this, this, and this, but we really need to spend some money on this? Do you have like a specific item that maybe you hadn't thought of at first that Bill came to you with?
That was an ongoing, everyday kind of situation. Bill, every day saying, we need this, this, and this. So I cannot remember. I mean, not that I was loose with the purse strings, but I can't remember turning anything down.
No. I can't ever recall that either, Tom.
Right.
That's
And
amazing.
I would say this, and you know, we talk a lot about the whole corporate structure and the structure that Meredith has. One name that doesn't get mentioned very much, and that's Phil Jones, who was the president of Meredith at the time. And Phil said, put the news together. He came from a big news background at KCTV in Kansas City. He knew how to do it right. He'd worked with Bill in the past, and you know, not enough gets said about Phil Jones and really what he brought to the table and getting this newscast off the ground. I remember that I was initially against the old OGX situation, and I lobbied hard not to do OGX. I remember that. I admit it. And Phil said, I remember exactly where I was in my house with Phil Jones screaming in my ear saying, you will do it. I don't care. Make it happen.
What was the reason? Do you happen to know why he was so adamant of keeping OGX a part of your team?
Well, it was an economies of scale kind of thing. It's like, it doesn't cost that much more to get us in another market, to cover the DMA a little bit better and to cover that section of the DMA. I mean, WESH had a big footprint up there. And if we're going to compete against WESH and then we can pick CJB's pocket at the same time, you know, that it made sense to do it. And he brought me around by yelling at me.
After the show went on the air, Tom, how often was Meredith on the phone with you, checking in with you? You know, how's the show going? Or have they seen some episodes where they had questions? How much were they calling you after you finally got on the air?
They were calling me quite a bit, and the only I don't remember if you remember the story about the baby in the oven. Does anybody remember that story?
Oh yeah.
Bill, I don't remember all the details of it, but all I remember was baby oven Sanford. We had video of the oven, and Meredith went ballistic.
Oh, really?
Well, that was John Laughlin.
Yeah.
That was after Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah, Laughlin, who prided himself on never owning a television set and was president of the broadcasting group, which tells you about all you need to know.
So when a story like that airs, Tom gets a phone call, and then it probably rolls down a little bit to Bill. So to Bill, do you bring that to the meeting, the next 2 p.m. meeting the next day, and say, yeah, we're not going to do that again? Or is that something the two of you kept to yourself?
No, I brought it up. I don't think there was doubt in anybody's mind.
Donald, you have something? Oh, wait, I don't think your mic's on.
You're muted.
There you go.
Pretty sure I covered the story because there's different things that stand out in your head, and for me it was 18 years of broadcast news and stories or just stuff that was so hard. Like, I'm surprised I just didn't end up drinking more to deal with it.
More.
Would you like something?
There we go. Our
story,
sponsor's back.
But that story, I remember sitting with the detective and said, this guy is total trash. Because we were talking, I didn't have kids at the time. He had pictures of his kids on his desk, and he goes, this is between me and you. But if I was in a room with that guy by myself, I don't think I'd have a job anymore. And he goes, and this same guy with the oven, and I'll tell you, it's a little therapy because it sticks in my head, is he told me that not only did that, but he took a hot iron and put it on the back of a child, on the child's back. That the child had burn marks from an iron. So, and I'm sorry to bring that down. I'm sorry.
But yeah, those are the type of stories, the things you had to deal with.
Wait. I got one.
Okay, here goes Lewis.
Stick in your head.
I got one where I thought Bill and Tom were going to fire me.
Here we go.
Do you remember when we had that incident with the students at UF? Oh, shoot, I should have never said that. At some college north of Orlando.
There we go.
And somebody had accused guys of doing something wrong, and the state attorney gave us the evidence video, and I was having it fed from Gainesville, Ocala to Orlando because we had a fiber feed from there, and somebody at the station turned it on. And let's just say that college kids were doing what college kids do, and it was all caught on tape. And Bill goes, what the blankety blank are you doing? I'm like, Fox Corporate, what's this video? He just let me have it.
So
Good memories with the stories.
Wait, nothing made it on air, you're saying? What?
Oh no, it made it national, but well, they edited the heck out of it. But yes,
I'm saying, when it was being fed, you're just saying you saw it in the feed room.
It was raw video, but it was raw video of a lot of, there was a lot of nakedness on the video.
Yeah, gotcha.
Oh, I wish I had something to tell Lance, and I'd totally forgotten this. I was like 2 or 3 weeks after finally starting at Fox, and there was some overseas story about an earthquake or something, and this village, I forgot what country it was. There was an earthquake, and parents were carrying children, and they were alive, but they were crying. But this one baby was naked. Now I'm my whole life watching the National Geographic and then shows like that. We're like, well, this is serious. I'm going to air this. I'm going to edit this the way it aired. So this little boy is naked briefly on camera, and I'm on headset during the show, and I hear 10 different people go, "Oh!" at the same time. And then we got to commercial, and Lance got on headset and he said very simply, "No pee-pee on the TV," is what he said. Because this boy was naked, but just to hear everybody on headset, production, everybody just, like, uh-oh. So I think I had done something wrong. But Lance explained it to me nicely. I wish I could have got that in there since we're talking about.
Do you guys know that Fox 35 was featured on the movie Blackfish?
Some of the clips, yeah, they use some of their clips and
did not
voice.
know that. And so
No, I never knew that.
for years, I would get people say, "Oh my God, I saw you on Blackfish." And I would say, "Oh, I hear that all the time. It's not me." Well, finally, years later, I watched the movie Blackfish, and they have taken Fox 35 News clips when I think there was a drunk man that went in the Shamu tank or something, and he was killed. He was found naked on top of the
David Martin mentioned that in his interview. Yes.
And so it was in the movie. So if you've never watched Blackfish, Fox 35 is featured in the movie.
Well, I hope you've been getting your residual checks in the mail, Joanne.
I wish I was.
I'm going to Blockbuster right now, and I'm gonna rent that.
Well, I would think about it. I wanted to ask all of the reporters here and any of our behind the scenes crew that have their best memories. What is your best memory? I'll ask Joanne first. What is your best memory of a sweeps piece that you did or you took part of? I have this great memory of Joanne doing teases for 10 p.m. And the tease said, I heard it. I was in my edit bay, but all I hear is Joanne's voice saying, "How to break up with your hairdresser tonight at 10." But that's my memory. I was like, what kind of memories do you have from your favorite sweeps pieces that you worked on, Joanne? Do you have
real
something?
Quick, I hate to interrupt. I have got to go.
Okay.
But great seeing everybody. Bill Avery, thank you for changing the trajectory of my life for the better. Never
Scott.
can thank you enough.
Thank you, Scott.
Our very first sports reporter and anchor, Scott. Very good to see you.
If you want to contact me, I have the best email in the history of television, tvsportsguy@gmail.com.
Oh, to this day, he jumped on the Gmail very quick and got that. Very good.
Hi, Scotty.
Hi, Scotty. Love you.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Good to see you.
Yes, I thought Scotty got hacked today and sent me a text because there was just a link to this thing. And I thought I had missed all of this on social media. And so I thought he got hacked. So I deleted everything and then blocked him. So I have to go in and unblock Scotty now.
I sent him a message too. I was sending random people going, I wonder what this is going to look like when they get it. Because when I went into Facebook Messenger, it wasn't showing what it looked like.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure some folks were like, yeah, I got hacked.
He was a tough get because I had to go through his wife's Facebook page to get him the invitation for
That's
this
what
thing.
I sent it to her too.
Yeah, that was good that we got here. So, Joanne, do you have a memory of one of your favorite sweeps pieces that you ever got to do for Fox 35?
First, I will say the How to Break Up with Your Hairdresser had so much interest because if you are a woman and you are unhappy with your hairdresser and you want to go to another hairdresser in the same salon, ladies, the anxiety that generates is mammoth. But I think, honestly, it's so silly because it's, again, just super fluff. But I remember Daryl and I flew down to Miami to interview Paula Bagon. She was an author. She had a bunch of books like Don't Go to the Makeup Counter Without Me and all these different things about how to save money and get top of the line everything for next to no money. And it was, Daryl and I having fun. And, Daryl was quite the serious character.
You don't say.
Daryl, fun. I'm sorry, what?
But, I love to joke with him. And so I just remember on that trip, teasing him so much and just, more than any story, if I'm really honest, because there were stories in other markets, 9/11, I was down at the Twin Towers for weeks. Yes. And as somebody else said, we covered a lot of painful things in our career. And I have done a lot of therapy to deal with some of the things I've seen and done. But more than that, when I look back at Fox 35, it is not the stories, it is the people. And typically I would say it's, the people you cover in a story, but it was the people I worked with. I just loved you guys and I loved working there so much. And to just be surrounded by other people who just share that energy. I mean, from, yes, we worked hard and we had, remember those Nerf gun fights we'd have all the time, and you guys played ping pong all the time, and it was just, there was an energy and a love, and then we'd go out and have fun. And I remember hosting parties. I loved having you guys to my house, and I would prep food for like 3 days, and it was just a feeling of family. And that is what I remember most about
one of
Fox
the
35.
benefits of only doing a 30-minute show every day is that we get to spend a lot of time with each other in the newsroom. For some of us behind the scenes, 2 o'clock meetings turned into 2 o'clock meeting to a nice long lunch to coming back and piecing the show together, but just really building a bond. I don't know if people do that these days in newsrooms. They probably go, they get their assignments, they head out. There's not a lot of time to hang out in the newsroom the way we did when it was only just that half-hour show. So I totally agree with Joanne on that for sure.
I will say this. When I left Fox 35, I was hired at an ABC station in Baltimore. And it was shocking.
Mm-hmm.
It was shocking. People were not friends. It was a union shop. It was all about, if you were working with a photographer, that they just wanted to do what they had to do. And it was, people were competitive. They didn't like one another. There was no bonding outside of work. And I was not prepared for that. I really wasn't. And there were so many days that I so questioned the decision that I made.
This sounds exactly like what Steve Oldfield said to me when he was taking his drive down after leaving Fox 35. Does that sound familiar, Steve?
Well, yeah, and so you may have heard me say this in the interview, but I literally cried for 4 hours.
On the drive.
And I was like, what the hell have I done? And I was working for Whammy TV, which was this like avant-garde thing. Ben Mankiewicz, who went on to a pretty big career, and Cenk, who was on the Young Turks, was one of my producers. But there were people literally in the newsroom and in the sports department who wouldn't say hello to you. You'd like pass them in the hallway and you'd say hi, and they'd like look right through you, or they like roll their eyes and look the other way. And that was so different than what we had. And again, it was Tom Collado, it was Bill, it was you, Joanne, it was Lewis. All the leadership team at Fox 35 was such a great group of people, right? You felt the love the moment you walked in there. It's the only place I've ever really looked forward to going to work every day, just to catch, just to see all those great people. And yeah, I've never worked anywhere since where people are half as nice as they were. So hats off to you, Bill, for bringing all these nice people together.
And that's what I said about Bill during either his interview or another one. If there was an Emmy Award for Best Casting for news, Bill should have definitely won that Emmy Award.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to mention that I did message Kate Hansen about this little get together tonight, but she had people coming over, so she couldn't do it. But she did want to tell you all hello, and I know we had lunch together a couple of weeks ago and caught up, and she's doing well, and still to this day thanks the world of each and every person that was part of that team. Very much so.
And Bill, while you're talking, we'll have you continue. Do you have any memories of sweeps pieces that stood out in your mind on those first few days and weeks? What was your first? You guys March. What was your first sweeps? I guess. Sweeps. I don't even remember anymore. May.
We had the thing that I remember the most, and it's too bad Scotty's not still on, because I remember him remarking about this. So just before we go on the air, we have this horrific series of tornadoes come through. And at that point, I believe we were actually shooting as live. I think we were in rehearsals. So we were out covering everything. Lewis managed to get his hands on some video, I think, of a Walmart store or something out in Oviedo where the whole front end blew in.
Lewis has no memory of that, by the way.
Lewis is old.
It was I don't know how he ever tracked it down, but I think he was just calling around until he found somebody that's, and oh yeah, we have, store security camera was running. So sure, we got video of that. And, but then let's see, we went from that thing, which was, like a bat out of hell. And then it went into, what was the second one was the wildfires.
Wildfires, yeah.
Yeah.
And 2/3 of Volusia County burned to the ground. I mean, forest wise, jumped Interstate 95 and almost made it all the way to the Atlantic. And then there was a third disaster.
There was that little girl that was, do you remember the little girl who was beaten and we looked for her during Thanksgiving?
Oh, and the mom.
There was a big search for her. Joanne interviewed the mom, yeah.
What was that?
And it turned out the dad had killed her and she was in a shallow grave up in, it was a huge story.
And you guys had interviewed the mom. Wow.
Yeah.
Bring us down, Sue. Thanks.
Well, now since we have Sue here, we can ask
It
Sue
was
next
really
then.
big at the time.
What were some of your favorite stories or sweep stories that you recall, Sue, that stand out in your mind?
I don't remember too many sweep stories. I remember usually not enjoying sweeps during my career because it just
Amen.
seemed like
Amen.
everything was so artificial and we had to make things up. But Orlando was just huge for breaking news, and there's so many stories that I remember, just like that little girl. A lot of them, unfortunately, are heartbreaking. I mean, the first thing I covered there was that vampire trial, where that had killed his parents because he needed to drink blood. And I mean, and that's how we start. I was like, this place is nuts.
It was the strangest stories.
Yeah, you're talking about the Rod Farrell thing.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Rod Farrell.
Hey.
I forgot his name for a minute.
And the other one was Kaylee Anthony trial. The Kaylee Anthony.
Oh, yeah, that was later. Yeah.
But we had the strange.
Yeah.
It wasn't just big news stories; they were strange as can
Weird.
be. And unfortunately, there were multiple child issues, child abuse.
Right.
issues. And then I remember one day Lewis is like, "Dude, I'm sending you to Sanford." He's like, "What?" I go, "What?" He goes, "You're gonna love it. One neighbor's pissed because the other neighbor shot his hogs." And he's like, and now they're going to go to war or something. And I remember we were trying to chase down some big issue that there was going to be a shootout or something because somebody shot somebody's hogs.
I will say Florida, and I think we actually created a segment like, Florida News of the Weird, something like that we ended up
I feel like
doing.
we did, yeah.
Yeah, as a segment.
And we also did cold case.
Yes, I remember.
Sure.
that.
Remember that?
And one thing too, Sue, that I remember vividly from the time that you were there is that you did the story about the kids that were living underground in downtown Orlando.
That was a
And
good story.
that was, honest to God, I don't know that I have ever been more worried about the safety of any reporter than I was with Sue, who infiltrated that group and managed to document an entire homeless segment of the population that was totally out of sight. And that was an amazing story. And she did a great job with it. It was a great piece.
And all
We had
those
a lot of good stories.
all those tapes are still there. Unfortunately, they have not been digitized, but in the years that I've been back there, there's still that DVC shelf is still up there with all the tapes. That you and my handwriting is on there, and your handwriting of us like writing tape number dash whatever, and all the paper books where we had to write in what time. Yeah, paper books are still there in the very, very back. I remember seeing years ago because that was before we typed the stuff into iNews. But all the stories are there, and there's great stories. They should be digitized. We should be gathering some of these great stories that you guys are remembering. Beth Sherman, do you have an example of a story that you loved or a sweep story that really stands out in your mind that you got to do?
Oh, wow. I feel like all of my stories that I remember are the ones that were just very bizarre, or I think I said this, I said this in our interview, that because of the size of the market, even though, yes, many of us came from much smaller markets and we went to this large market, it still had kind of a hometown feel. All of the reporters, all of the photographers, we were all very close. And I think that's what maybe impacted me so much last week when we had that, when we had the shooting and we lost a fellow journalist, was because I had done this interview where I had talked about how close all of us were. Even if we were competitors, we were a family. Yeah. And for me to see a 24-year-old out there who had interned with friends of mine and who was in this business for all the right reasons, I think that really impacted me greatly, because we all were so close when we were out there doing our stories. For me, I think the Deltona, the young kids who were murdered, I became friends with their parents.
That was the Xbox one?
Yeah, that was such an interesting, fine line between covering the news and then becoming part of their families. And then, Hannah Martin with, she was the very young child who had all the heart surgeries. I've been in contact with them. I've done GoFunds for one of their children, and we're still really close to this day. When I was in Afghanistan, they sent me a care box. And so I think some of those stories are the ones that I really remember. And I just think we always did such a great job of bringing that human element of a story. I remember when there was a young couple who, and I told this in mine, where the dad, it was not his normal routine to take his child to the daycare. That was not what he did any other day of the week. The mom did that. And that one day it was his job, and he went to work. And he went to lunch. And when he went to lunch is when he found his child in the back seat of the car. And of course, the child didn't make it. And I just remember, writing a note on the back of this business card, basically saying, I want to give you that opportunity to share your story. I wasn't there to judge anyone. And when I heard the story, I was like, yeah, to this day, I've told that story. This can happen. We all get so busy. I think we're busier now than we've ever been. Half the days I don't remember, certain things, yet people have seen my interview and they're like, wow, you remember all kinds of things. So I think that we were always so blessed with Lewis and Bill and our producers, Lance and Hannah and everybody, to be able to tell that story. We had to do it in less than a minute and a half. And according to Lance, don't use the word "that" too many times, which I meant to tell them I still abide by that to this day. But I really feel like in some ways when we started our news, we were able to tell those stories that other people weren't able to tell. And so those are the stories for me that still last. There are other great stories that Steve, being able to go out to Hollywood and interview Simon Cowell, or go with Joanne to do Gloria Estefan. But I just wish when I was that age, when I was starting out, that I would appreciate those relationships more, because I've never had those again. Just like what Joanne was saying, I think that when you go to that next market, or for me, I got out of TV news, I started working for the government, those relationships, they'll never happen again, just because we were all so new. And we were all hired at the same time, and there were no egos. I wasn't on a Kleenex box or anything.
Here we go.
But, I felt like at times I was a big deal, but not really. But I just think that we all had such an incredible bond that we may not, and I can't speak for everybody, but I've never really had that again.
Bill, at the very least, we should have had Beth Sherman's picture on the side of a Mustang or something. Just to be fair. Jeez.
Yeah, well, that was, I think that was a little before shrink wrap came along. Otherwise, we could have personalized those news cards. But to Beth's point, I was talking to a good friend of mine, dear friend of mine, who's up in New York and worked for the rep firm that represented the Meredith stations nationally. And his name's John Gluck. And I sent him some of the interviews that you had done, Art. And he said, he called me and he said, Bill, you got to tell Art that he needs to edit down some of the salient points of those interviews and put those in a college or university journalism archive, because he said, I will tell you what happened and what you folks just recounted will never happen again. That was a period of time that was that big, and it was magic. And he said, young people that are coming up today in communications, journalism, would never believe that you could have pulled all that off. And I have a tendency to agree with him.
Yeah, the stories that you guys are telling, the stories that we're all telling, are stories that, you know, people told in the 1930s and 40s when television was getting started. But then it happened again for Fox stations around the country in the 80s and the 90s. But since then, things like that just don't happen, where you start a TV station from scratch. We're all in a very unique situation, and you're absolutely right. It's just, go ahead.
Say, Bill or Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember within 14 months of our launch date, we were number one in the key demographics, which had never been done before, and I don't believe has ever been done since. I just got goosebumps.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so funny because I did too.
Now, Tom, was that something that you found out, or Meredith told you? I don't remember how that information got to people before the internet.
We found that out as the ratings were released, and it was a major celebration for us as well as Meredith at corporate. And to Joanne's point, I don't know that it has ever been done again. I know it was the first time that it did happen. You know, to Bill's point, for those of you who don't know, I teach at University of Central Florida. I teach a class in advertising and I teach a class in management. And the students that I teach that are seniors at the college level, it's very difficult for me to bottle what we had. What I am able to take away from that is to tell them what I wish I would have known, and a number of you, I kind of got the impression that you would have known it as well, is that every single day that we spent together was special, and we really didn't realize it until much later in our careers. So I'm passing along to these kids to say, hey, enjoy it. It may not, you know, you're going through the grind. You're doing the daily work. You're on air. You're doing stories. You're editing. You're shooting. Everything that you're doing, that's special. Yeah. And it's special in their time. It's going to be different than ours was. But, you know, if I can just, you know, impart that to them to say, celebrate every day that you have. And, you know, their world is different from our world. You know, I've gone from teaching a class that was all about radio and television, that's gone from radio and television into cable, into digital, into podcasts, into streaming. It's a whole new world. And you know, it was special, and it can be special for them at the same time.
And there is that sadness when you leave. For me, it was only 20 minutes of sadness because I lived close to home. Poor Steve Oldfield, he had to drive 4 or 5 hours to Miami. That was a long, sad drive, wasn't it?
It was horrible. It was a horrible nightmare. I'll never forget. Hey, Tom, I wanted to give you a shout out about something else. They were talking about the polos and the T-shirts. I'll never forget that thing that we had in the studio where you called all of our names like we were on a basketball team, and you gave basketball. Everybody remember that?
Yeah.
Was that at the launch breakfast that we did with the choir?
Yes.
All right. Lewis just went off camera because I think he's going to bring it out and show us, because I think he collects everything. But yes.
Yeah. Yep. Tom brought in the Orlando Magic cheerleaders.
Yeah.
and they ran in with me to start the thing off. There was music was playing, and I got to tell you, Tom really was.
Here's the shirt.
Most terrific guy to work with, and
First team,
and did so much. I mean, he constantly was cheerleading that outfit. There you go. Just such a instrumental part of our success, and as were each of you. I mean, it was truly a unique moment in time, and the perfect wrap up to my 36 years in television, and I'm forever grateful for it.
I was still asking everybody about their favorite stories or sweep stories that stood out. Donald, do you have something that we haven't mentioned yet that's really stood out in your mind that you got to do?
Honestly, the one that does stand out is the shark diving story, because I still just can't believe I did it. And, like literally 60 feet down on my knees on the bottom. And I mean, Mike Velocity edited that with me on the antique Avid machine, because we did some special stuff. And besides dissolve, Mike, I remember you could crop in, right?
Oh, yes.
We had so many great shots of these sharks coming to get this bait with the teeth. And yes, we were telling the story that they're not after you, but Velocity like brought it in and cropped it, and just, it was done well editing. It was a little foxy, as we
But
did.
I'd be foxy, and that was the whole point.
So, yeah.
Music,
We didn't do any, right. We didn't do any whip pans on the sharks.
David did the whip pans. We
David
Still
did the
doing
whip
it.
pans.
David still does that.
Hey,
Shit works. You should try it.
listen, I'll tell you that there's a little bit of an editing technique. It's more of a ramp that I still use in these 60-second sizzles that we produce for Visit Florida. And I was feeling at home, because this week we were at Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex filming with a veteran astronaut, doing the interview, and a family experiencing some of the stuff there. And I was like, this was it, man. These were the old days. And I was telling him a story of covering launches, and he knew the people that I knew back then that were there and still buddies with, and it was just fun to catch up. It was cool.
So we've got our main anchor here and our weekend anchor. Donald, I remember working many weekends with you and Joanne and Janice, because Sundays, and we talked about this with other interviews, Sundays was really like a Monday, wasn't it? The X-Files was huge. Everybody had to work Sundays there. There was no, what were you, Janice or Joanne, what were your days off normally? So I know it wasn't Sunday.
Yeah, I worked Sunday through Thursday. So Thursday was our Friday.
Thursday
So
was
like
your
our
Friday.
No Pants Friday was actually Thursday.
On Thursday, yes. And then Donald, you were a weekend anchor, and I worked many weekends there. What were your days off?
I guess it was, we too were all shorts on the weekends with jacket and tie. And I guess, Joanne, then it was
I think you
Sunday,
had Monday,
Monday.
Tuesday off? Yeah.
Was
You
I
were
off?
probably off Sunday, Monday.
I think I was off Sunday, Monday.
yeah.
But I think they often had you package something for Sunday, because you often did a lot of the, lead stories as well.
I can't, gosh, isn't it crazy how
I know,
much
it's been so long. I know. It
We're
was
old.
25 years ago.
But I do remember, yes, all the parties, like even after the newscast was done at 10:30, right? Nobody could go to sleep. So we'd go to somebody's house and either get together or watch movies and just eat food. And I don't know, it was always something.
And I also love the fact that, it wasn't just like the on-air talent that hung out. It was everybody.
The whole team.
And I've never seen that in another newsroom, that
Right.
it's everybody coming together.
You probably never
Yeah.
will again, because it's a revolving door at most stations. But that initial crew of you guys, you were there for a long time. And when somebody finally left, it was like, oh, so-and-so's leaving. Or when it finally came the day where Joanne left us, it was very, very sad. And I remember, do you remember your last newscast? I believe it was a baseball night and it went into overtime or extra innings, sorry. And your last newscast ended up being like only a 2.5 or 3 minute show. Do you happen to remember that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was down to your last show. And it was like, all right, half-hour show. And then whoever was producing would have to break it down. And it's like, all right, we're going to come to you for 2.5 minutes. And then that was your last show. And that was the last time. All right, so I'm looking at my screen here of all the different people that I see. Tom and Bill, of all the people that we see here, how many resume tapes did you see of theirs? And you said, yeah, I think we should call them in right away. Or you set that tape aside and said, maybe I'll think about it. I'll think about it. Maybe not them. Do you have good memories about resume tapes that the two of you saw?
We had and this is where Kate Hansen did such a marvelous job because she cataloged each and every tape that came in. And I think she had built a spreadsheet with the contact information for each of the people so we wouldn't lose track because, there's no time to really, just sit down immediately and look at the videotapes that came in. We had a stack of 250 VHS tapes. Easily. Could have been more than that.
Joanne, that's got to make you feel good, right? 250 tapes, and yours was the one that was chosen?
Well, that was because Bill also said, I'm not dealing with agents.
That's true.
If you're an agent, take a hike.
Cool. Yep, that's true. And that amazed me that people coming out of these smaller markets so often had agents, and the agent would call me up and they would start a negotiation. I said, well, wait a minute, let's just let me make this real simple for you. This is the job. This is the size market that we're talking about, your client coming into, and this is the salary. And if they don't want to do that, then that's up to them. But I'm not going to waste my time or yours negotiating something that isn't negotiable. And those conversations didn't last long. They were over pretty quickly. And I think everybody came on board. But no, it was really a great opportunity. And I guess, it was a gift to me because I'd had so many years in different stations, usually going in with existing groups of people, trying to put something back together that had fallen apart. And I never got called when things were going great. And so this was just a chance to say, we get to go from scratch and get to bring in exactly the right people that have the right skill and the right firepower, just that. And to everyone's credit in there, took a leap of faith because, hey, folks, we had no background. We had no history on this thing. This was just, lighting M80 and throwing it out the window and seeing what had happened. And boom, #1 in a year.
And when it did happen, Joanne, and you got the phone call from Bill, do you happen to remember that?
I don't remember the phone call. I remember our interview. And I remember just thinking, I really want to work for this guy. And, my personality is such that I can be a little over the top, right? And I can, I remember really wanting it. And I remember trying to sell myself. And at the same time, feeling like I didn't have to, which was interesting. I can't really explain that better than that. But I remember walking away thinking, I really want this job. And also having a spark that told me I was going to get the job. And I don't remember the phone call. I remember when I had to turn my resignation in at my job because I had just signed a new contract, but I had an out clause and I had included Orlando in that out clause.
That's interesting. David Martin had the exact same thing in his clause. He said he had an out for Orlando. What was it with you guys in Orlando? Did you think Central Florida was someplace you wanted to live and you just threw that in the contract?
I mean, I had like a top 25 market out, and Orlando was it was the last availability. And we argued. The GM's like, no, that's like market 30 or something. And it had moved up because of the influx of population had moved up. And so I was able to bring in I don't know, whatever the ratings thing was that, that stated the market stats. And I got out of my contract.
Wow.
And I just remember being on top of the world.
I remember seeing so many tapes, and I remember the tapes from each one of you guys that I'm looking at right now. But I will tell the story about Joanne, and I think I've told this to Bill before. We've had coffee. I don't remember what station you were at, Joanne. Was it in Sarasota and somewhere down Southwest Florida? And in your tape, okay, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, what won me over, and I said, "There's our anchor," was your wink. You had a wink on the tape. And when that wink came up, I knew. And I don't know if you remember that on your tape, if you still have that tape, but if you're ever able to dig that out, that wink got you.
That's awesome. Wow. I don't remember that at all. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you.
I have two quick stories. Okay. Number one, it's been 25 years and Joanne is still on my demo reel. Because there's a quote where she said, there's a lot of good news in that piece, and it was all put together by our senior editor, Mike Velocity.
Oh.
So that's still on my resume.
You got to keep
that. And her hair was still in the
oh God.
But it's,
can you please email that link to us?
We'll definitely do that. And then number two, I've only had one. There was one time I was asked to help with it, hiring a new employee at Fox 35, and I'm pretty sure, to my recollection, that I was the deciding vote that hired this one person, and it was Art Miles.
It was?
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that my vote was that was the only time I was ever asked for my input, and the Beastie Boys demo reel was like,
yes.
And Bill said, I remember Bill, like, what do you think? I'm like, you know what? Like,
he's an idiot.
The Southern guy has more experience, but like, maybe let's go with Art.
Oh yeah, I had weddings and a couple of music videos that I did back at college. They're Beastie Boys music videos. Oh, my other friends are going to be so happy to hear that. Thank you, Mikey. I've never heard that story before.
That is awesome.
That's the guy got hired. Like I said, let's go with Art, and Bill said, okay, let's go with Art.
Whew.
Oh my God,
that was a close one, man.
I mean, that's how I remember it. Like Bill might remember it differently. I don't know.
Yeah, I had to sit across from Bill, and I had this stupid demo tape with weddings on it and music videos, and I was just like, "There's no way. There's no way." I think I was on a trial basis for a while because it was hit or miss maybe for a while. But thank you, Mikey, for the final vote. Wow, I feel like I just interviewed Simon Cowell now, and you just gave me the final vote to send me to Hollywood.
But let me throw out there as the editors, to this day, no matter what, I have never met two nicer, more even-keeled guys in the world that would be under pressure, trying to get things done, trying to please everybody, trying to finish stuff for the producers and VOSOTs and VOs, and then helping out reporters and getting stuff for teases and getting stuff done. And you guys I never remember a negative or a frustration or a nothing but niceness. So love you guys.
Oh, thank you so much, God. This is going on my resume tape. Woo, let me tell you.
Never saw me throw tapes down the hall in art.
That may have happened after Donald left, but yeah, there were a couple of DVC tapes that got broken in half because sometimes the AirPlay system would break down, and then you'd have to put a tape in quick, roll A, and then that tape just craps on you, and then we got to quickly go back to the anchor. I may have pulled that tape out and broke it in half.
I do remember things breaking and technology being a pain, but that wasn't against anyone else. You were just reacting as a human to things like that. You guys were just nice all around to everybody.
Because all we had was that little half-hour show, and so we worked all day, and if something didn't go right, we'd get mad or something, or we'd get frustrated. I call it passionate, to use that in a sentence. Beth Sherman is passionate.
Yeah. Well, you want it. No, everybody wanted it. Everybody wanted it to go right. Everybody wanted to just do well for everyone. It was the
But
team
it's like
effort.
we've all been saying, like we were all a family though. And I still feel that way. Like everybody on the screen, like I feel like we're like I would hug you, like we're family. Like it's all.
I think that's why we're all here on the call today, because we haven't had another job like this, and it's a no-brainer to sit and interview you guys, because I could ask questions for days and all the answers are going to be great because you were a part of something so amazing back then that's why I'm going to continue doing this. I'm going to interview everybody one-on-one, as well as anybody in the group chat here that I haven't had a chance to interview one-on-one now that I've got you here, because it was such a great time in my life. I'm sure you can all agree it was a great time in your lives as well.
Can I ask where everybody is? Because I have to admit, I haven't been on Facebook in a long, long time because I got tired of it, and I think I ditched it 2 years ago. I'm on Instagram, so I don't keep up well enough for Facebook. But Joanne's Phoenix. Sorry, that's my puppy dog. And Steve, you're where now?
I moved back to where I grew up, which is Bellevue, Kentucky.
That's right. Okay.
I got out of the business and was doing documentaries. So this is a little office I rent in Covington, Kentucky, which is across from Cincinnati. But then about almost a year ago, I went back into the business working for Spectrum News. And I do 3 happy stories a week. I'm a MMJ, they call it. And I was on the way here, I to be on in this thing with you guys. I just shot a story about people raising their own chickens in their backyard. And I was in a chicken coop about an hour ago. And I'm going to the Arnold Classic to do stories on that this weekend. And not doing movie stories, doing mostly newsy feature stuff now.
But you've been teaching as well, right?
Yeah, I teach full time as well at Thomas More University, where you're not going to believe this. I'm one of the assistant rugby coaches.
Yes.
I work with rugby. And that's my new passion, really, is rugby and working with those guys.
For some reason, not the tennis coach, the rugby coach. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
So Donald's going around asking everybody where they are now. What about you, Sue? Tell us where you are now.
Donald, you're muted.
I said I knew Beth was DC, Sue and Mike. Where are you?
I'm in Springfield, Virginia, which is like 25 minutes outside of DC. So we're near each other, Beth. And I work for Scripps News and was kind of part of their launch for their streaming network, booking guests. And it was nothing like Fox 35. So it was just a lot of chaos, but it's going better now. So, and I have 4 kids and I'm still running. And
Congrats.
Great.
Awesome.
That was something.
You look the same, Bill. You look and sound the same.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. We all, as I'm looking over here, I'm starting to agree. Yes, we all look pretty good. Maybe it's because we had a great stress-free job on our early ages, and it carried over. We did that. Did you get? I'm looking through there now, Mikey. You said you're back here. You said you're in Apopka now.
So like I was with Donald in St. Augustine for a year, but I didn't get to hang out.
Yeah, that's how did that happen?
It was short-lived. I was there for a little bit, but I'm back in Orlando now, so I'm working for Hearst, which is, they own like every TV station in the world. Mm-hmm. And we're doing stuff for their streaming network.
Cool.
It's like it's like lifestyle entertainment reporting, like documentary type. It's like reality TV, but just on their streaming network.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
And Beth Sherman, did he ask you already? You're in Washington, correct?
Yeah, I'm working for the federal government, so it's I'm here to help you. I'm from the government. But I do get to see Lewis on a pretty regular basis over the years. We've been able to get together in DC and hang out through his job through the airports and my job at FAA. So yeah, I definitely get so if anybody ever comes in the DC area, Sue I need to hang out obviously with because she's literally like 12 miles away from me. But yeah, I enjoy the area. Maybe one day I'll make it back down to Florida. We'll see. I don't know. The cost of living now is a little bit high there, price wise for houses. But I enjoy being out of TV news, but I still watch, some of the local news, and I still get to see some of the same people that we had in our market back in the day. So it's kind of nice.
Speaking of that, Tram Mai just celebrated her 20th anniversary at News 12 here in Phoenix.
Wow,
so she's
20
doing
years.
fabulous.
Awesome.
She's one of the originals. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's on that.
She was
plaque.
an original.
Yeah.
I
We
didn't know.
talked about her earlier without talking about her.
Yes. Now you could piece the two things together if you wanted to, if you're watching all this. Maybe she'll come on and we'll laugh about that one day. And then I can show the pictures, right, Lewis?
Is it the pictures that have her makeup on the airbag?
No pictures on the airbags.
And then Lewis, everyone has told us you're still in Central Florida, of course. Yes, correct?
Yes. Okay. I think my video just went out, but
That's all right. You're frozen, but your face is smiling. That's fine.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So I still live in the same house from day one. Obviously, I still have all kinds of old equipment, as you can all tell, because it all crashes. However, I cannot be more proud of how everybody is so accomplished. Tom, Sue, Donald, I'm sorry about your dad. And he was one of the Miracle in the Hudson folks. Joanne, my God, you're killing it on real estate.
Yes.
I mean, Beth, yes, I see you in DC. Sue, please come join with us at some point.
Time. You'll be here in March, right? In a few weeks?
I'll be there in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Sue, I'll let you know. Let's get together.
Yeah, 2 weeks. But I cannot say thank you enough to Bill and Tom for taking a chance on us and hiring all these little news pirates to put together this newscast. we actually, I think it all worked out really, really well. So, no, but to everybody, please know from me how proud I am, how lucky I feel that I got to work with each and every one of you. Yes, I was a pain in the ass. Yes, I'm still a pain in the ass. But you know what? You guys did a great job. And we just, to Bill's point, we put lightning in a bottle. And thank you so much to everybody.
I think it's great now. At this moment, we actually can't see Lewis. So in my mind, I'm just picturing a guy with a phone on one shoulder and a cigarette out of the side of his mouth right now.
Yeah.
It sounds like a rotary phone.
And yes. Well, you know what?
It is. I do have rotary phones at the house, yes.
Lewis, how do I know you so well?
Maybe Lewis has ended it on a good note with his very nice thoughts that he gave us. So this is it, 25th anniversary of Fox 35 News. It was March 1st, 1998. We were getting close to this time where Joanne was about to sit at the desk for the first time and go on the air and broadcast to everyone. We were all sitting at home watching the X-Files. It was a good episode that week. I actually went back and looked at it to see what it was. And then there Joanne was popping up on the air to tell us about Donald's big story. And then from that moment on, it has never stopped. And it's 25 years later. And just because I live in the area, I still get to see it every morning. And there are people there who weren't a part of the original crew, but have made comments to me saying, "Oh, I love this. I've watched the interviews." Or Amy Caulfield said, "Beth, it's so great to see you on there." Amy Caulfield does the morning show now there at Fox 35. But you're kind of celebrities because you're kind of a big deal considering what you did. And Tom can attest, what minimal equipment you had, and Bill can agree, what you had and what you were able to accomplish was pretty amazing. And I was watching at home for those first 5 or 6 months before I got the job there. And I said this to Joanne 10 years ago at the reunion. I said, Joanne was the first famous person I ever met. And then I got to work I got to work side by side with all you guys. It was so cool. And that's why it was so easy to do something like this, because I could sit and talk with you guys forever, but it's almost been 2 hours. And if Lance was here, he would chop this all up right now, I'm sure.
But we still have 13 minutes. And I just want to
Go ahead.
say, don't ever celebrate a milestone birthday around Joanne, because I celebrated my 30th birthday, and I can't remember if it was you and somebody, that you knew at the time, married to. But we did like sushi and we did all these other things. And by the end of the night, I was getting my belly button pierced.
Wow.
And, if you're going to celebrate a milestone birthday, if you want to have a lot of fun, do it with Joanne.
Wow.
If you want something more, a little lower key, maybe don't do it with
Wow,
Joanne.
we buried the lead there. We're 2 hours into it, and now we're just now finding about the belly button piercing.
We had a lot of fun back then. We really did have a lot of fun. And, one thing we kind of started off talking about, what was his name? Hal Bodecker, and how he had nothing good to say about us.
Ever.
Bill,
Hal Bodecker, yes.
You sent an article that was in the Orlando Sentinel, and not that many years ago, maybe 10 years ago or so. I don't remember who wrote it, but they were talking about the 50 most influential broadcasters in the history of Orlando, the 50th anniversary of television, the first TV station launching. And I ended up being number 50. And I'm not saying that about me. I'm saying that because the whole article was about how they launched this newscast. And I was I think they used the term unusual choice, a female, a solo anchor. And they said something in that article about how we shouldn't have succeeded, yet we did. And that was just, again, I know we've been saying it a long time, but it was the culmination of a lot of young, energetic people under the guidance of Tom and Bill and Lewis. He kind of was young, but not really.
31.
And that came together and just dared to believe they could. That's all. We just dared to believe we could, and we did. And that makes what we did incredibly special.
I think Joanne just signed off for us. That was a really good closing.
Yeah. By the way, do you guys remember the pool party at Bill's house?
Yes.
Yes.
I think was that the celebration when we had just
hit number
one in first?
We did it, and I will shut up because there's a lot of stories about that night. I'm going to shut up.
Yeah, you probably should, because I remember one specifically.
Yeah, Lewis.
One of those images that you just can't forget, and you were in it.
Let's just say, if there was social media back then, would there be people here that be saying, I'm going to be going home to spend more time with my family and I'm stepping down now? Would it be a lot of that?
I borrowed somebody's bathing suit.
It's kind of better without his video right now, isn't it? It's just this voice popping in. That's great. Well, thank you all for spending some time with us. I'm going to continue with interviews as the weeks go on, because there's plenty of great stories to continue to tell. Donald, I would love to have you and Janice be in there for an interview. And Janice, she's playing tennis somewhere.
And picking up our youngest son from one of his many activities. So she says hello. And if anybody's in Northeast Florida, please, St. Augustine, let us know. We'll get together.
Very good. Well, I think we will all have stories we could talk about for many, many more hours. But for now, maybe we'll just end and say thank you all for taking the time to visit with me. And there are some people who couldn't be here. David Martin is out at a function right now, but he wasn't able to be here than he wanted to. And I had a list of other people as well that want to. So I might be doing this again with another group.
Maybe
So
give more than 48 hours notice.
yes.
You know.
How dare you? I put, you know what? No, I take that back. Yeah, I just put it on Facebook the other day, didn't I?
Hey,
Wait,
Art,
more than 48-hour notice? So you can
Yeah.
fix all that stuff
She's
behind
not
you and
making-
arrange
Don't
it?
worry.
How
Art,
dare you?
maybe-
How dare you? Maybe next time you'll hide those wires behind you. How dare you?
Those aren't wires.
Oh!
I can't. They look like wires and there's a TV up there. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I'll
Art,
definitely
can
be
you
editing that
compile-
out.
Art,
Go ahead.
Art, please compile like a contact email list for people.
Oh, that's a good idea. We'll put like a list
I
together.
know Facebook, that's good, and we can message different ways, but sometimes you don't get it or we miss.
Got you.
If
All right.
we're
I
in
will build a
somebody's
contact
area-
list. I could build the contact list off of this if you want. You see what this is?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
It's been in my wallet. It stayed in my wallet for like 10 years. I eventually took it out
My
and just
info has changed
laminated
since
it.
then,
This is
so-
the original phone list that was in my wallet for years, because on the back of it, I started writing down some of my favorite stories that I got to do. And so I could remember the tape numbers when it was time to put another tape together. So I kept it on there. And oh, look, Beauty and the Beast is on there. That was the Steve Oldfield one. I've got that written down on there. It's on tape, Mikey. It's on tape number 99-256. So that's like way up on the top shelf
I know
now.
exactly where that is.
Yeah, 99, because we used to write the year on them, 99 dash, and then whatever the tape number was. So I keep all my favorite tapes on there. Someday I'll go back there. Maybe I'll spend a summer there because I have summers off as a teacher. And maybe they'll let me just digitize from tape number 1 and just start putting all that stuff online. Because I'm sure there's great packages and stand-ups and just stories that are on there. Beth, you said you didn't like to do a lot of stand-ups. You just do your voice. But I know we've got great stand-ups there. Look who's joining us at the very last second. It's Janice
There
Jones
she
coming in
is.
here.
By the way, Art, there may be a second laminated sheet in existence.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's here.
Oh, it's here. You've got it. You've got it.
And a big shout out to Art, whom I'm so very proud of, who has
Yes.
managed to lead TV and is helping our youth in a job that's so very important as a role model.
Teacher
as
of the year, right?
Teacher and teacher
Yes.
of the year.
Teacher of the year. Yes.
Surprised by this, but I mean, big kudos to Art because he is who we need in our education system, and I just can't say enough great things about what he's doing as well.
Thank you for saying that. Now we really got to end on that. That was awesome. But now
Very
Janice
well
is here.
said,
But
Beth.
now
Very well
Janice
said.
is here. I feel like I want to say hi to Janice and say we told a lot of stories and we miss you too. And eventually I'll get you and Donald in a package deal, just like your demo tapes that got you the job. Well, a package deal. We'll do a package interview.
Janice doesn't want to be with Donald.
Yeah, maybe she'll do her own separate interview. Yes.
One-on-one. They're
Yes.
their own people.
So be on the lookout. You'll get maybe messages from me in the future, and we'll try doing this with other groups of people. But I also want to do individual interviews with all of you if I have not already.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much, Art. It's really, you're doing an awesome job. We really, really appreciate it.
I'm having
Yeah,
fun
and
doing
I'll
it.
work on getting Lewis some better equipment.
Yes, get him a microphone and a camera and a computer, for
Yes.
God's sake. He's using Windows 95 over there, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, Windows 7.
Windows 7. Not, I wasn't that far off with my joke then.
Great seeing
Yes.
everybody. You
Good
guys
to
are
see all of
awesome.
you guys. Thank you
Thanks,
so much
you.
for talking.